Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Bhagavatam. So we are now on the 11th canto, and last week we read from chapters 6 and 7. Actually, the entire 11th canto from chapter 7 to chapter 29, which is, I think, about 80% of the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is called the Uddhava Gita. It is the instructions of Krishna to his best friend, Uddhava. And he's narrating a lot of these things that he's teaching Uddhava, just like he taught Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here he's teaching Uddhava, his friend, through a lot of examples and stories, but laying some extremely powerful lessons. These are his last messages, Krishna's last messages, before he leaves our world for his own. And knowing that fully well, he's instructing the person who was closest to him during many, many years of his time in Dwarka. So when he began, he started talking about the Avadhut. An Avadhut is a person who is very highly spiritually evolved, who has no attachment to the world at all. He's just wandering about like a person who is completely in ecstasy and joy with no attachment to anything, no interest in anything worldly, completely in his own bliss and ecstasy. Now this person, the Avadhut, he is teaching a king, King Yadu, about what he has learned. Or rather, the king is inquiring from him, so he's now telling him what he has learned. And he's speaking about what he refers to as his 24 gurus. So who are these 24 gurus that he has? He first begins by talking about the earth. So actually he refers to things that are very much day-to-day stuff that we come across. He's not talking about some, special guru or enlightened being. And of course, there's great value in that. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, just try to learn the truth by approaching a guru, a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively, render service unto him first, because a self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadyakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. One who has seen the truth, tattvadarshi, someone who has had direct experience of something, can tell you about it. If you've been to a particular place, you can tell others about that place, whether it's a restaurant or another country or it's another dimension, right? Only one who has been there, who has experienced it, So in other words, if you want to tell somebody about God, it needs to be from someone who has experienced God, who has met God, who has had interactions with God. And that such a person, this highly enlightened spiritual being, would be called a guru. Such a person is qualified to teach. So now the Avadhut is talking about his 24 gurus. Now there's another version of guru here. Firstly, the word guru means one who dispels darkness. Gu, referring to darkness of ignorance, avidya. And one who dispels the darkness of ignorance is a guru. Okay, so it's not just, nowadays they talk of financial gurus and they talk about political gurus, but that's not what the Vedas mean. They do not refer to that kind of loose usage of the word. All right, so the Avadhut is now talking of what taught him, and he learned much of what he learned from nature. So he refers to his 24 gurus who are all part of nature, and also there are some people involved, but we'll come to that. So the first he's referring to is the earth, and he says something very wise about that. He says, everyone is acting helplessly under the control of God. Even when attacked, never be distracted from progress on your path. There are two important statements here. One is, everyone is acting under the control of God. So does that mean that everyone is controlled by God, and therefore we're all like puppets on a string, and God is just the puppeteer controlling all of us. No, that's not what it means. We are acting helplessly, and what that means is under the control of God means God has set up the infrastructure, the modes of material nature, the way everything works out here, the sunset, the sunrise. We're not able to change that. We're not able to change our karma. We have done certain things in previous times, either previous lives or in this life itself, and that karma, those effects, those consequences are something we will have to face. Furthermore, there are states of mind that we live in, referred to as the three modes of material nature, different levels of consciousness, and those affect and impact us. The three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, control us, literally. So if you're in the mode of ignorance, you're going to feel depressed, you're going to feel unmotivated, you're going to feel that you have no desire to do anything really, just sleep and eat, or maybe even take some drugs or alcohol and just let yourself go. In the mode of passion, you'll want to create things, do things, make things happen. And in the mode of goodness, you're going to seek ways in which to purify yourself, to become more spiritually evolved, become more peaceful, become more elevated in your consciousness spiritually. And that's just the beginning. It goes even further than that. But these affect us deeply. And so what he's saying is that we are helplessly under the control of time, of nature, of karma, of the modes of nature. And so to become free of all of that, that is called moksha or mukti. So what he then says is that even when attacked, so if someone is attacking you or hurting you or saying something, if you really want to get free of the influence of this world, then do not be distracted from progress on your spiritual path. Because that is the goal of human life, is to become free. Free of the bondage of this world. And if you're really serious about it, if you're really determined to do that, then you have to make very concerted effort. So now he's learning from different aspects of nature. The first that he points out is the earth, the mountains and the trees. And he says that mountains and trees, they devote all their efforts for the welfare of others. Right? I think that's no surprise. We're all aware of that. How the earth, the mountains, the trees, they serve everyone, giving fruit and vegetables and all kinds of things that grow on the earth, providing shade, providing cooling, carbon dioxide, just all kinds of ways in which they serve humanity, serve every being on this earth. So they're not sitting there trying to get from everyone. They're not trying to exploit nature. They're trying to give to everyone. And we can learn from them that we are not here to just take from others, but that we need to be in service to others. The second element of nature that he is learning from is the air and the wind. And he says here, from the air and the wind, he learned about how to transcend material good and evil and not become entangled even when in contact with material objects. So what he's saying here is that good and evil exist in this world, right and wrong, good things and bad things, things you like and things you don't like. Duality exists in this world. But despite that, it is very important for us to not get entangled. Even though we are in contact with this world, in contact with material objects, and even though that is the nature of this world, how would you not get entangled? Here he gives the example of the air and the wind. So the wind carries aromas, but it doesn't hold on to them. In a little while, those aromas will fade away, and the wind will carry on, clear, pure, untainted. That is the very nature of the air and the wind. It in and of itself is not affected, even though there might be some bad smell or good smell for that matter. It is not actually tainted. It may move that that fragrance or bad smell from one place to another, and you may smell it, but as you go a little further away, you won't experience that anymore. So it's not holding on to it. It might blow us away, but ultimately it calms down and it's no longer attached to anything that it's holding on to. So in much the same way, we need to not hold on to the things of this world that bother us. Then he gives the example of the sky. And he says, although the sky extends everywhere and everything rests within the sky does not mix with anything, nor can it be divided by anything. So the sky is everywhere, right? And yet, even though it's everywhere, it doesn't mix with whatever is on this earthly plane. It's just there, witnessing it. But it is not mixed with it. So in the same way, we can learn from the sky that even though there are things going on in this world, in the politics of this world, in our workplaces, in our homes, we can become more detached from those things. And just like the sky, we can observe what is going on without letting it affect us. So it is neither becoming mixed with anything, nor can it be divided by anything. And that's also very important, that we are not becoming divided with each other, nor are we becoming divided by politics or divided by family dramas. We are situated just as the sky, observing and being in a place of complete compassion and love, being our true self. So these are the lessons he learned from the sky. The sky which is everywhere and which is bringing light to everyone. So the next lesson he learns is from the water. And he says the water is pure and gentle. And just like the water, we too need to learn to be pure, uncontaminated by lust, anger, greed. And we need to practice being gentle with ourselves, with each other, and create beautiful vibration with our speech, purifying all those whom we come across. Now we may say, there are so many difficult situations and there's so many difficult people, and how can I keep on being pure and gentle and purifying whoever I come across? But that is our very nature. That is the nature of our soul. That is the nature of who we are. And we need to be able to dive deep into that reality and bring that out into the world. Because our mind is constantly contaminated by desires, constantly contaminated by, he did this, she did that, and I'm therefore feeling this way, and we're holding on to what people said and did. And the more we hold on to that, the more resentment and bitterness comes into our hearts. And then it contaminates our mind, and then it contaminates our body, and then it contaminates our life. But if we can just be there, instead of trying to hold on to the things of others, that others give us, the junk that they give us, if we can just be like water, pure, gentle, creating beautiful vibrations with our speech, then we will have made a difference in this world. The next guru that he refers to is fire. And this is really talking about the true nature of a guru. A true spiritual master is one who burns to ashes the past and future sinful reactions of his disciples. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Sarva dharman parityajamam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. That just surrender unto me, right? Surrender what? All your dharma, your ideas of right and wrong, your ideas of what is to be done and not to be done, your ideas of dharma in every way. Sarva dharma. Parityaja means give up. And do what? To give up being righteous and being good, No. He's saying, surrender unto me. Just follow my path. I'm showing you in the Bhagavad Gita exactly what has to be done. I am the source of everything. I am that supreme being who is worshipped by all the devas, by all the demigods. And I have come to show you the way. I will free you from all your sinful reactions, all your karma. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo, all your pap, all your sinful reactions, I will free you from that. Moksha ishyami mashuch, and I will give you moksha. This promise is now recent, and now in recent time we see Christians talk about how Christ will give salvation and how Christ will free people from all their sins. Well, this promise was made by Krishna 3,000 years before Christ. This is not the first time this was said. And this, in fact, is the promise of any guru that is worth their salt to their disciple. Because that guru is acting on behalf of Krishna and bringing people to Krishna. And therefore, he is making the same promise because he knows that that is Krishna's promise. Not that he is himself going to do that. So that is like fire, which destroys everything in much the same way that fire destroys everything. The Guru or Krishna destroy all of our karmic reactions and free us from the entanglement to this world. The next Guru he talks about that he has learned from is the moon. The moon, as you know, waxes and wanes and it changes. But actually the moon doesn't change. It is the same. So although it appears to be changing, it never changes. It is the same. There's this illusion that we have from our vantage point that the moon is constantly changing. So he says here that the changes of the body do not affect the soul, just as the waxing and waning of the moon does not affect the moon. Right? So our soul is not affected by the changes of our body. Sometimes people say, oh, I'm looking so old now. Oh, I'm looking so terrible right now. And I said, look, your soul never got old. The same soul entered your body when you were a baby, and it's the same soul. It hasn't changed. All that's been changing is your body. But you are the same person. You were never your body. You were never your mind. You were never the stuff that you own. You came without any of that. You leave without any of that. But you are the same person. You've been changing bodies even in this life, from childhood to youth, to adolescence, to adulthood, to old age. Your body will keep changing. It is the very nature of this body. As long as you're identified with this body, with this mind, with these thoughts, with these experiences, then you will suffer. But to the degree that you stop identifying with the false reality of this body, mind, organism that you live in, it's like identifying with your car. Yes, your car will get old, no doubt about it. But you're not your car. You can always get another car. Right? The car doesn't define you. This body doesn't define you. This body and mind is not you. So the circumstances will change. Everything will change. Happiness and distress will come. All kinds of things will come in your life. But stay steady in the real sense of who you are, and that is the soul. So he goes on in this way, describing the phases of the moon and how as the moon changes, the moon still stays the same. And so the same example of the soul. Next, he talks about the sun. Just as the sun evaporates large quantities of water and returns them back to the earth as rain, in the same way we should accept and give away material objects without becoming entangled. So a very big part of advancing in spiritual life is not that we keep accumulating more and more and more, but that we, of course, we need material things. So take them, right? Whatever is rightfully due to yours. Don't take them from other people, but take that which comes of its own accord. And we'll be talking more about that in a bit. And use it for the service of others and ultimately give it away. Don't be holding on to things. There's no point of keeping a whole stash of stuff in your storage, garage, wherever you keep stuff. There's no point in hoarding. There's no point in accumulating. It's ridiculous. And yet so many people do it. Right? So things are there, but don't be attached to them. Don't hold on to them. There is no point in it. So just like the sun is also going through various stages. And it takes out water from the ocean, and then it puts it back and distributes it all over the earth. Next, he talks about the pigeon. There was a story of the pigeon that was talked about. And all this was from last week. So I'm just kind of doing a little short recap. And in that story, he talks about the excessive attachment that pigeon had for its family members. Now, of course, one will have excessive attachment for one's family members. It is only natural. But what the story goes on to talk about is how that attachment to its babies and led to not only, first the babies were taken by a hunter, and then the mother went to try to save the babies, and then the mother was killed. She was also captured. And then the father, wanting to also try to save his family, he too was captured. All of them were killed in the process. So he cautions against this kind of attachment to one's family members, which, although very natural, we need to realize that our work here in this world is to be able to help our family members evolve spiritually, because that is the purpose of human life, right? And not get excessively attached to either our home or our family members. So with that, we come to today's part of the Uddhava Gita. Today he talks about the python. The python, he says, we begin a new conversation here. He says, the saintly Avadhut said to the king, King Yadu, the embodied living entity automatically experiences unhappiness in heaven or hell. He says, wherever you might be, this planet or any other planet, whether you're in heaven or in hell, you're going to automatically experience unhappiness. Nobody wants unhappiness, but it comes. Similarly, happiness also will come of its own accord without one seeking it. Therefore, a person of intelligent discrimination does not make an endeavor to attain such material happiness. You see, this philosophy that he's going to express here goes contrary to the way we've been brought up. We've been brought up to accumulate as much wealth as possible, to create as, a person is considered successful if they have accumulated a lot of wealth, if they have a wonderful house, a wonderful, lots of money in their bank, if they can buy all kinds of material comforts, that's considered a successful life. But according to him, it is not. According to this Avadhut, he says, follow the example of the python. One should give up material endeavors and accept for one's maintenance food that comes of its own accord, whether such food be delicious or tasteless, ample or meager. If at any time food does not come, then a saintly person should fast for many days without making endeavor. Should understand that by God's arrangement he must fast. So if it's not coming easily and effortlessly, then do not stress over it. That's the point he's making. Do not stress over it. He says, follow the example of the python. Remain peaceful and patient. A saintly person should remain peaceful and materially inactive, maintaining his body without much endeavor, even though one has full sensual, mental, and physical strength. A saintly person should not become active for material gain, but rather should always remain alert to his self-interest. Now, he is referring to someone who is completely detached from the world. Most of us are very attached to the world. We have our home, we have our family, we have our possessions, and we are striving to be able to sustain all of the lifestyle that we've created. But we must learn from the sages what our destination is. He's also showing us what the symptoms are of an evolved person. And if you want to evolve spiritually, if you want to advance in your spiritual life, then these are the qualities to be working towards, to become more unaffected by the circumstances of your life. Sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. Sometimes your pay goes up, sometimes it comes down. Sometimes you have a job, sometimes you don't have a job. Things change all the time. But not to let yourself become affected. Recognize that this is all happening by the will of God and accept that as a great gift. It's very hard to do. I agree. But it is what it takes to become more spiritually advanced. He says, a saintly sage is happy and pleasing in his external behavior, whereas internally he is most grave and thoughtful. So introspective, thoughtful, serious, but outwardly happy and pleasing. Because his knowledge is immeasurable and unlimited, he is never disturbed. How does one knowledge become immeasurable and unlimited? Good question, right? It comes from being connected to the Supreme Lord. When you are connected to that divine source of everything, then he is Sat Chit Ananda, which means that he is the source of all knowledge and wisdom, all that is to be known. He says, Krishna says, from me come the Vedas, and from me everything that is you will get to know everything that is to be known. I will reveal it to you. Even the entire Vedic literature is considered that which is revealed to the sadhus, to the rishis. So because his knowledge is immeasurable and unlimited, he is never disturbed. And thus, so this is the symptom of a person who is enlightened, who is wise. That person is never disturbed. And thus, in all respects, he is like the tranquil waters of the unfathomable and unsurpassable ocean. During the rainy season, the swollen rivers rush into the ocean. During the dry summer, the rivers, now shallow, severely reduce their supply of water. Yet the ocean does not swell up during the rainy season, nor does it dry up in the hot summer. In the same way, a saintly devotee who has accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, as the goal of his life, sometimes will receive by providence great material opulence, and sometimes he will find himself materially destitute. However, such a devotee of the Lord does not rejoice in a flourishing condition, nor is he morose when poverty-stricken. So much to learn here. So much to learn. Because this goes against the grain of what we've been indoctrinated with. Because this goes against the grain of our society. And this wisdom is needed in today's time, when everything is being shaken up. No matter how successful we are, quote unquote, our lives can and will and do get shaken up from time to time. And then we might bounce back again, or we might not sometimes. The 10th creature that he learns from is the moth. And from the moth he learns to control the senses. He says, one who has failed to control his senses immediately feels attraction upon seeing a woman's form. It could be a man's form for a woman, but we're going along with a sadhu or a male or a person in a male body. So the senses become immediately attracted upon seeing a woman, which is created by the illusory energy of God. So this Maya is the illusory energy of God. This Maya is what is attracting us, whether you're a woman attracted to a man or a man attracted to a woman. All of that attraction is only Maya. It is only illusion. We think it is the symptom of love, but it is not. Just because you are attracted to someone doesn't make that love. Love is not necessarily equal to attraction. Attraction is all about, I want to enjoy with this person. Oh, this person is handsome. This person is beautiful. I want to enjoy with this person. This is lust. It is not love. Love is an entirely different thing. That is prem. And prem is not the same as kam. Big discussion there. I won't go into it right now. But if you have any questions on that, feel free to write down your questions. I will take up all I will take up all questions at the end. So, he says, one's senses are immediately drawn when there is a beautiful form. All of these forms are created by Maya, the illusory energy of God. Indeed, when the woman or man speaks with enticing words, smiles coquettishly, and moves her body sensuously, his mind is immediately captured, and thus he falls blindly into the darkness of material existence, just as the moth, maddened by fire, rushes blindly into its flame. I don't know if you've heard this analogy before, but yes, as a moth to a flame. That is a very powerful imagery, because it shows us that we too are like that. We are chasing our desires. And in chasing our desires, whether that's desire be sensual, sexual, or material, we are like that moth to a flame. We are burning up in that flame our entire life, our time on this earth, our opportunity to grow spiritually, which is what we were born to do. A foolish person with no intelligent discrimination is immediately aroused at the sight of a sensual or attractive man or woman, beautifully decorated with gold ornaments, fine clothing, and other cosmetic features. Being eager for sense gratification, such a fool loses all intelligence and is destroyed, just like the moth who rushes into the blazing fire. The next example he gives is of the honeybee. And in this example, it is about taking the essence of what we want and nothing more. A saintly person should accept only enough food to keep his body and soul together. He should go from door to door. So this is for sadhus. Accepting just a little bit of food from each family. Thus he should practice the occupation of the honeybee. Just as the honeybee takes nectar from all flowers, big and small, an intelligent human being should take the essence from all religious scriptures. It's a very important piece right here for all of us. Just as the bee goes from one flower to another, big and small, and taking nectar from all of them, we too can learn from the various religious scriptures, and we can learn, in fact, as he's doing, from nature and from life and from each other. A saintly person should not think, this food I will keep to eat tonight and this other food I can save for tomorrow. In other words, a saintly person should not store foodstuffs acquired by begging. Rather, he should use his own hands as his plate and eat whatever fits on them. We'd all be very slim if we were to live like this. we wouldn't put on a lot of weight. His only storage container should be his belly, and whatever conveniently fits into his belly should be his stock of food. Thus, one should not imitate the greedy honeybee who eagerly collects more and more honey. A saintly mendicant should not even collect foodstuffs to eat later in the same day or the next day. If he disregards this injunction, and like the honeybee collects more and more delicious foodstuffs, that which he has collected will indeed ruin him. Now, I know we have to put aside, go grocery shopping and put things in our refrigerator, and our way of life might be different. But again, we have to be very careful to not overdo this, to not be hoarding things, to not be overly collecting stuff, or even eating food that is old, stale. It's very important that we eat sattvic food, food that is, Krishna describes, that is freshly cooked and not packaged, and not stuff that comes out of a box, but things that are freshly made from whole foods and grains, preferably no meats and things like that at all. Then he talks about learning from the elephant, right? So the elephant, he talks here about the elephant. It gives the example of chasing sensual desire once again. A saintly person should never even touch a young girl, or for that matter, a boy. And there's been cases of that. In fact, he should not even let his foot touch a wooden doll in the shape of a woman. By bodily contact with a woman, he will surely be captured by illusion, just as the elephant is captured by the she-elephant due to his desire to touch her body. A man possessing intelligent discrimination should not under any circumstances try to exploit the beautiful form of a woman for his sense gratification. It's very important, this message, because we're getting messages from society that one should display one's beauty and one's form as much as possible and become as attractive as possible, because otherwise no one's going to be interested in you. But all of this goes against the Sanatana Dharma, where it talks about that's not the goal of human life. Sense gratification is not the goal of human life. Then the Avadut goes on to explain. He says, just as an elephant trying to enjoy a she-elephant is killed by other bull elephants also enjoying her company, one trying to enjoy a lady's company can at any moment be killed by her other lovers who are stronger than he. There's a practical wisdom here, right? He's not just saying things just like that. There is a practical wisdom in this. So you're chasing after someone who is sought after by others. Well, there can be jealousy, there can be envy, there can be rivalry. And sometimes that can lead to very tragic consequences. This can happen whether you're a woman attracted to a man or a man attracted to a woman. It goes both ways. The nature of envy does not have any limits or boundaries. And neither does lust or greed. Then he gives the example of the honey thief, or the hive thief, sorry. And this is about accumulating wealth. He says a greedy person accumulates a large quantity of money with great struggle and pain. The person who has struggled so much to acquire this wealth is not always allowed to enjoy it himself or give it in charity to others. The greedy man is like the bee who struggles to produce a large quantity of honey, which is then stolen by a man who will enjoy it personally or sell it to others. No matter how carefully one hides his hard-earned wealth or tries to protect it, there are those who are expert in detecting the whereabouts of valuable things, and they will steal it. We see a lot of that happening in our time today, where people's entire bank accounts are being looted by all kinds of deceptive, what we call them, scammers, who are literally just your hard-earned money. They'll just pull it right out of your account and it's gone, and there's no way you can get it back. It used to be they'd just come to your house and steal stuff, but now they've gotten even smarter. They don't even have to come to your house anymore. Just as a hunter takes away the honey laboriously produced by the honeybees, similarly saintly mendicants, such as brahmacharis and sannyasis, are entitled to enjoy the property painstakingly accumulated by householders dedicated to family enjoyment. Which means that you may have built a beautiful house for your enjoyment, but by offering it to brahmacharis, sannyasis, or saintly people to come and stay and take care of them and serve them, that is the dharma of a grihastha, of a family person. To feed them, to serve them, to take care of them. That is the way of dharmic life. He then talks about the deer and learning from the deer how worldly singing and music can sometimes be a trap for us. A saintly person dwelling in the forest in the renounced order of life, the sannyas, should never listen to songs or music promoting material enjoyment. So he's not saying you shouldn't listen to music, but it's promoting material enjoyment. Rather, a saintly person should carefully study the example of the deer, who is bewildered by the sweet music of the hunter's horn and is thus captured and killed. Becoming attracted to worldly singing, dancing, and musical entertainment of beautiful women, even the great sage Rishaya Sringa, the son of a deer, fell totally under their control, just like a pet animal. So you may wonder, why is he against material enjoyment? Isn't life for enjoyment? Aren't we supposed to be happy? Aren't we supposed to eat, drink, and be merry? Isn't that the purpose of life? And the answer the Vedas give us is no, that is not the purpose of life. This life is not about to eat. We're not here to eat, drink, and be merry. In fact, everything in this world belongs to God, and it is for His pleasure that it exists. It was created by God. It is created from God. Krishna says, I expand into everything. Everything you see is an expansion of God. So it comes from Him. It exists for Him. And it is for His pleasure. we claim these things as ours, though we can never take them with us when we die, even after a few years. Whatever few years we are on this earth, we cannot take it with us. Yet we claim this is mine, my house, my car, my bank balance, my possessions. But nothing is mine. Mine is the cause of our suffering. That which we claim to be mine is the very cause of our suffering. And it is that attachment to these things that stifles our spiritual growth. It's not that we shouldn't have, it's that in having, one should not be attached to anything one has, or neither identify that this is mine. Then you are free. You could be a king, you could be in a palace, you could be having millions and billions of dollars. But the key is to become unattached to any of it. Great kings in previous times would, as they got older, they would leave their kingdom to their children and then go away into the forest to meditate and live on just roots and whatever bark of trees and live on the side of a river. That was it. Meditate all day long. They knew that that's the purpose of human life. And so they would prepare for death, to use the remaining part of their life in the service of God and in meditation. The next example he gives is of the fish. And there he talks about the control of the tongue. He says, just as a fish incited by the desire to enjoy his tongue is fatally trapped on the fisherman's hook, similarly, a foolish person is bewildered by the extremely disturbing urges of the tongue and thus is ruined. By fasting, learned people quickly bring all of the senses except the tongue under control. Because by abstaining from eating, such men are afflicted with an increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. So sometimes when you are fasting, you might have noticed that your desire to go back and eat something nice increases massively. Like normally you may not even be thinking about food as much, but if you're fasting, then you might be thinking way more about food. So it says, although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has really controlled his senses. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. It's a very powerful thing to learn, learning to control the tongue. So it is recommended that one should practice fasting. And unfortunately, because if you're only going to fast, you're going to be thinking of food. Therefore, one should use one's time to think about God, to read about his pastimes, to chant his name, and devote oneself to the thought of God during that time. Especially on days like Ekadashi, one should fast if possible. Or minimize the consumption of food, especially grains and so on. One should avoid any of that. And finally, at this point, he gives, of course, I shouldn't say finally, because we're going to now read the story of Pingala, the prostitute, and what he learned from her. But there will be more that we will be reading in the next few weeks to come. So now he talks of Pingala. Pingala is a prostitute. And from her, he learns about freedom from material desire. So previously in the city of Videha, there lived a prostitute named Pingala. Once that prostitute, desiring to bring a lover into her house, stood outside in the doorway at night, showing her beautiful form. This prostitute was very anxious to get money. As she stood on the street at night, she studied all the men who were passing by, thinking, "Oh, this one surely has money. I know he can pay the price, and I am sure he would enjoy my company very much." Thus she thought about all the men on the street. As the prostitute Pingala stood in the doorway, many men came and went, walking by her house. Her only means of sustenance was prostitution, and therefore she anxiously thought, maybe this one who is coming now is very rich. Oh, he's not stopping, but I'm sure someone else will come. Surely this man who is coming now will want to pay me for my love, and he will probably give me lots of money. Thus, with vain hope, she remained leaning against the doorway, unable to finish her business and go to sleep. Out of anxiety, she would sometimes walk out toward the street, and sometimes she went back into her house. In this way, the midnight hour gradually arrived. As the night wore on, Pingala, who intensely desired money, gradually became morose, and her face dried up. Thus, being filled with anxiety and disappointed, she began to feel a great detachment from her situation, and happiness arose in her mind. At first, she began to feel disgusted with her material situation, and thus became indifferent to it. Indeed, detachment acts like a sword, cutting to pieces the binding network of material hopes and desires. It's a beautiful learning right here. Detachment acts like a sword, cutting to pieces the binding network of material hopes and desires. See, when we don't get what we want, we don't get our desires met, then often we tend to become detached. Now, that detachment might feel fake. It might feel forced. Maybe we haven't found the partner we're looking for. Maybe we haven't got the house we wanted. Maybe we haven't got the job we wanted. Whatever it is that we've desired and didn't get, there comes a point where we become detached from it. That attachment cuts to pieces the binding network of material hopes and desires. And then Pingala began to sing a song. Just as so what this is about, I'll explain it here. Just as a human being who is bereft of spiritual knowledge never desires to give up his false sense of proprietorship over material things, similarly, a person who has not developed detachment never desires to give up the bondage of the material body. Why should one desire to give up the bondage of the material body? Is it a bondage? Why do they call it bondage? Because in fact, not only is the soul bound to this body, and through the entire duration of this life it cannot get out, it is also bound to all the thoughts that go on in this mind. It is also bound to all the needs of the body, and is forced to have to now keep on providing for those needs to be met day after day after day. Because of those needs that this body has, we become its servant. We think we are the master, but in fact we are the servant of this body and of this mind. The body might be satisfied with just a little simple food or a little something, just a small little hut to live in, but the mind will not be satisfied. It wants a beautiful house, it wants wonderful food, it wants to eat in nice restaurants, it wants a great ambience, it wants all these things. So the mind keeps on egging us for more and more and more. And no matter how much it gets, it's never satisfied. It's always wanting more. It's always wanting that other place, that new restaurant, that new place that opened, that, oh, I want to buy that house, I want to get that car. Never enough. So we are, in fact, in bondage to the mind and body. We are not its master. It is our master. Unless, of course, we take charge. And that's what this whole practice is that they're talking about. Is by practicing these things, we develop a detachment from the mind and body. It no longer now controls us. And now we're able to make choices outside of the mind and body's needs and demands. So the prostitute Pingala said, just see how greatly illusioned I am. See how much illusion I'm in. Because I cannot control my mind, just like a fool, I desire lusty pleasure from an insignificant man. I am such a fool that I have given up the service of that person who, eternally situated within my heart, is actually most dear to me. Who is that person who is situated within our heart, whose service we have given up? We don't even realize it. We were created by God for the pleasure of God. And that pleasure can only be done when we start to serve Him. when we take everything that we are and devote everything we are to Him. And when we do that, everything that we are is now for and is meant to be for pleasure of God. That's the correct relationship. So she says, I am such a fool that I have given up the service of that person or God, who being eternally situated within my heart, Paramatma, is actually most dear to me. That most dear one is the Lord of the universe, Jagannath, who is the bestower of real love and happiness and the source of all prosperity. It's the bestower of real love and happiness. That's right. Real love doesn't come from another person, not even by getting a pet, a dog, cat, whatever people, go for. But real love comes from God, because that love is not conditional, whereas the love of this world is always conditional. If you don't do this or that or the other, I'll leave you, I'll divorce you. Unconditional love is, I will never leave you, no matter what you do. I will love you as you are, regardless of anything and everything. See, that is the way God loves us. But we have a very hard time doing that for anyone. Maybe for our children to some degree. But even there, we're often unable to. So He is the bestower of real love and happiness and the source of all prosperity. Although He is in my own heart, I have completely neglected Him. Indeed, I have ignorantly served insignificant men who can never satisfy my real desires and who have simply brought me unhappiness, fear, anxiety, lamentation, and illusion. Let me know if you relate to this. Have you had this experience that in searching for love, in searching to meet your needs, your desires, and find the love of your life, you have in fact found unhappiness, fear, anxiety, lamentation, and illusion, like Pingala is saying here? I know I can relate to this. I'm sure most of us can. Oh, how I have uselessly tortured my own soul. I have sold my body to lusty, greedy men who are themselves objects of pity. Thus, practicing the most abominable profession of a prostitute, I hoped to get money and sexual pleasure. This material body is like a house in which I, the soul, am living. See her wisdom. It's so amazing. This wisdom can be found anywhere. And here we see the wisdom of this prostitute. So beautiful, so amazing. She says, this material body is like a house in which I, the soul, am living. The bones forming my spine, ribs, arms, and legs are like the beams and cross beams and pillars of the house. And the whole structure, which is full of stool and urine, is covered by skin, hair, and nails. The 9 doors leading into this body are constantly excreting foul substances. Besides me, what woman would be so foolish as to devote herself to this material body, thinking that she might find pleasure and love in this contraption? Certainly in this city of Videha, which is where she lives, I alone am completely foolish. So this is the nature of a devotee who sees themselves as foolish. He doesn't see themselves as so smart and so, incredible and beautiful and awesome and fantastic and fabulous as nowadays everyone likes to do when they're on Instagram. No, a true devotee understands how foolish they are, being lost in the illusions of this world. She says, certainly in this city of Videha, I alone am completely foolish. I neglected that supreme being, the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who awards us everything, even our original spiritual form. He's willing to give us not just this world, but His world, and bring us back to our original spiritual form, our Swarup. We have a spiritual form. We have forgotten that we come from God. We have a spiritual form just as He does, a form that is Sat Chit Ananda. It is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And we can live in that spiritual form eternally with God in Vaikuntha or Goloka. So he awards us everything, even our original spiritual form, and instead I desire to enjoy sense gratification with many men. The Supreme Godhead is absolutely the most dear one for all living beings because he is everyone's well-wisher. He is the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, situated in everyone's heart. Therefore I will now pay the price of complete surrender, and thus, purchasing the Lord, I will enjoy him, just like Lakshmi Devi. Mirabai also said this. She says that the Soda, the bargain was very sweet. I gave him, Krishna, all of myself, and he gave me all of himself. What a great deal that was. So think about it. Your giving all of yourself is you giving this tiny little infinitesimal being, one little drop in the universe that we are, thinks they're great, but isn't really, who is so limited and flawed in so many ways. You're giving all yourself to him. It's like giving an old pair of shoes to someone and they give you an entire treasure house. He gives you all of himself. He who is the source of all material creation. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. He gave me all of himself, she says. She then continues, men provide sense gratification for women, but all these men and even the devas, the demigods in heaven, have a beginning and an end. They are all temporary creations who will be dragged away by time. Therefore, how much actual pleasure or happiness could any of them ever give to their wives? Although I most stubbornly hope to enjoy the material world, somehow or other detachment has arisen in my heart, and it is making me very happy. I think we can all relate to this. We have all tried to enjoy the world. We have all tried to enjoy sensual pleasures. We have all tried to enjoy sex and food and travel and all kinds of things that the world and pleasures that the world has to offer. Where has it led us? How happy are we? Are we satisfied? Are we content? Write me your comments. Let me know what you think. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu must be pleased with me. Without even knowing it, I must have performed some activity satisfying to him. Why is she saying this? Because he's brought her to this point. Because in things not working out for her the way she would have wanted, God has brought her to that point of detachment, of surrender. A person who has developed detachment can give up the bondage of material society, friendship, and love. And a person who undergoes great suffering gradually becomes out of hopelessness, detached and indifferent to the material world. Thus, due to my great suffering, such detachment awoke in my heart. And yet, how could I have undergone such merciful suffering if I were actually unfortunate? So the question is she unfortunate or is she fortunate? Right? She's asking such a brilliant question. Due to my great suffering, such detachment awoke in my heart. So the detachment from the world has arisen from the suffering that she's having. Is suffering therefore a blessing or a curse? Most people want to avoid suffering. Most people want to avoid pain. But is suffering actually a blessing or a curse? That depends on you. That depends on how you use the energy of suffering. You could feel like you're a victim. You could feel, poor me. Why me? I hate God because God has put me into this situation. Or you could understand that he's showing you the futility of material existence. He is showing you that there is no happiness here. He is showing you the truth, the reality. Because whatever happiness you do get here is still temporary and can be taken away at any time. Any time. Therefore, if we want it, then we are unhappy. When we get it, we're afraid of losing. And when we lose it, then again we are unhappy. So all through that, we're being tossed up and down, back and forth. But when there is detachment, then suddenly it doesn't matter. It's like when your stomach is full, then you automatically become detached. So the only way you can become detached is by the mercy of God. when he fills you with his presence, when you in your hopelessness call out to him, and when in that moment he fills you from within yourself, then you become detached from the world because you are now filled with God and his presence. And in that moment, none of this stuff matters. She says, I am in fact fortunate and have received the mercy of the Supreme Lord. He must somehow or other be pleased with me. Now you'd think she's a prostitute, but God is pleased with her? How is that possible? You think God cares? No, he's indifferent to that. He's looking at her heart, and her heart is melting. Then she says, with devotion I accept the great benefit that he has bestowed upon me. Having given up my sinful desires for ordinary sense gratification, I now take shelter of him. I am now completely satisfied, and I have full faith in the Supreme Lord Bhagavan's mercy. Therefore, I will maintain myself with whatever comes of its own accord. I shall enjoy life with only him, because he is the real source of love and happiness. There's so much to learn from here. People want to find their soulmate. People want to find the love of their life. But the reality is this: he is the real source of love and happiness. No one else can be. Human beings will disappoint us. Human beings cannot be depended on to always be there, even if they want to be. They're not in control of their life. You do not know how long that person will live, what situation. And sometimes, even if they are well-intentioned, still, there's only so much they can do. But if you want lasting love and lasting happiness, then the only place to find that is with the supreme source of it all. Why not go to the source and get unlimited happiness, unlimited love? And that is from Sri Krishna. He is the source of all love. Prema Pumartha Mahan. He is the ultimate source of love and happiness. The intelligence, she says, of the living entity is stolen away by activities of sense gratification. This is a fact. In the pursuit of sense gratification, of pleasing our senses, of gratifying our senses, we are constantly driven by material desire. So where is there peace? How can there be peace? So the intelligence of the living entity is stolen by the activities of sense gratification, and thus he falls into the dark well of material existence. Within that well, he is then seized by the deadly serpent of time. Who else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, could save the poor living entity from such a hopeless condition? When the living entity sees that the entire universe has been seized by the serpent of time, he becomes sober and sane, and at that time detaches himself from material sense gratification. In that condition, the living entity is qualified to be his own protector. So what is and Krishna also says the same thing. He says, Kala asmi aham. I am time. But Krishna comes into this world as time. So finally, the Avadhut says, this is the person who has been speaking and narrating the story of Pingala and all the different gurus that he's had in his life. The Avadhut said, thus her mind completely made up, Pingala cut off all her sinful desires to enjoy sex pleasure with lovers, and she became situated in perfect peace. Then she sat down on her bed. Material desire is undoubtedly the cause of the greatest unhappiness, and freedom from such desire is the cause of the greatest happiness. Therefore, completely cutting off her desire to enjoy so-called lovers, Pingala very happily went to sleep. So with that, we end the narrative for today. We will be continuing with over the next few episodes, with this whole teaching of Krishna to Uddhava, which is called the Uddhava Gita. And it's full of amazing wisdom, presented in a very beautiful and practical way. I wonder if you have any questions. If you do have any still, do write them down. I am happy to take and answer all your questions. If you're reading this in the comments later on, and still, please feel free to write down anything that's on your mind. You might have agreed, you might have disagreed, you might have liked, you might have disliked. Whatever it is, feel free to ask. I'll be glad to read your comments. I'll be glad to read your agreements and disagreements. I'm sure some of this made sense and perhaps some of it that didn't. Please feel free to ask. I'll give it another moment. If there's no more comments, then we'll end for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for those of you who've joined Instagram, on YouTube, and on Zoom. I'll see you next week, same time. We're here 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is 5 p.m. Pacific time. And in India, I think it is, I always forget. Well, whatever time it is right now. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I'll see you next week.